All right, here it is. It's the big day. You finally get to learn how to, and you can tell I was messing around with the Gladiator menu to see what was there. You finally get to learn how to sort of, quote, hack your Cherokee Trailhawk. There's a ton of information out there about Wranglers and Gladiators and Dodge Rams and all this stuff. And, and I know that if you have a Cherokee Trailhawk, it's a smaller community. There's less aftermarket accessories. There's less industry support. There's all these things that will improve with time. Cherokee Trailhawk came out in 2014, so we'll soon be on 10 years of production if they keep making them, and hopefully we'll soon be at the point where they will have made more Jeep Cherokee KLs than they made XJs. I don't think we've crossed that point yet. They still made more XJs than they've sold Cherokee KLs. I think it was one of the largest selling Jeeps of all time, and maybe one of the highest selling vehicles of all time was the Cherokee XJ. I know the Ford Explorer was a very large selling vehicle. Anyway, without further ado, what you need to do is you need to get a device that you plug into your OBD or OBD2 port in your vehicle. And on the Cherokee Trailhawk, it's right next to the hood release. You don't have to struggle to find it. It's right there. It's easy to find. And you get this OBD2 programmer module thing that you get. There's some 327 number on there that's like the standard. And anyway, all you do is you put your vehicle in the run position. They'll call it MAR in the documentation. If you see MAR, for some reason, that means the run position, not crank, but in run, right? And if you have, one of these push button starts, it's a little bit different than if you have the tip start like I do with the 2.4 liter Cherokee Trailhawk. Weirdly, I think has the tip start, whereas the V6 has the push button start. I have no idea why that's the case. I also don't have the auto shut off like the V6 does, which is probably why the gas mileage is almost identical between the 6 and the 4. It's not that the 6 is more efficient. It's that it has the auto shut off and the 4 doesn't. And I'm sure on the highway, the 4 still beats the 6. But anyhow, you guys want to know how to, quote, hack your tire pressures. So you'll click the Bluetooth icon at the top left. Okay, you'll see a list of Bluetooth devices to connect to after you plug into your OBD port. The next thing that you want to do is you want to select Jeep, and then you want to select your model, Cherokee KL, and then you want to select function. And here's where it deviates. For like every other vehicle I've seen for this, you'll pick body computer, and then you'll pick set TPMS threshold. Ours is not there. And let me tell you what not to do. Okay, this is what not to do. This is probably just as important as what to do. I was looking under body computer because that's where everyone else's was. And I was trying to figure out where I could change my TPMS settings because I couldn't find it. So on everyone else's menu, it's at the bottom of this, what's it called? The bottom of this body computer menu, okay? If you scrolled all the way to the bottom, within what you can see in your screen towards the bottom, not at the very bottom, you would see set tire or update pressure thresholds. We don't see that here. What we do see is car configuration change. And again, don't do this, okay? Under car configuration, I was digging around and I saw this one. Why not variant? I was going to try variant. Not that one. What was it? Present. I think that turns it on or off. Don't mess with these. This is what I did. This is what you don't want to do. So here's where it has different profiles for different countries based on their regulation. That's what I think this is. So the NHTSA is the National Highway Safety and Transportation Administration. Then there's NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, right? Then there's ECE, which is I think is like the Europe or something like that. Then there's other. Don't pick other. I picked other, and every warning code on my Jeep flashed, and I almost bricked my Jeep. I put it in reverse, and it went boom. Very scary stuff. I thought I was going to have my Jeep towed and have the computer reflashed. And I was praying that I didn't bang the gears up in my transmission because when that software is not correct, okay, I don't think it loaded any of the modules for how to control anything. I think all it did was it knew how to idle the car and like keep running. It didn't know how to do anything else. And if you want to get nerdy about it, I know a thing or two about software. What I think happened actually is when you set this sets some config file. And in this config file, it's trying to deserialize this value against some object maybe that doesn't recognize this setting, okay? Anyway, I think it fails to initialize. This is probably editing some config file in your car's computer. And when it changes, something probably restarts or reinitializes. And the first thing that it does is on that initialization step, it's probably trying to read this configuration file. And when it can't parse something correctly, like if you had this set, I think it just failed to initialize. And that's why every single code was thrown. I simply went back to this one, okay? And then I ran it again. It was fine. I'm telling you, don't do this. I repeat, don't do this. You could break your transmission. You could have your car might wind up getting towed. I took one for the team. I diddled around with this stuff. I found the settings. Don't do this. Now I will tell you what you can do at your own risk. I'm not responsible. Disclaimer, disclaimer. This is the Alpha OBD app, okay? Starting over again, this is what I did. Do it or don't do it. I'm not telling you to do it, all right? Pick Cherokee KL function. You want to instead pick, sorry, brain loading. You want to pick RF hub, super unintuitive, and you want to pick that, okay? Then you want to hit connect, and you'll click the little pop the hood icon over here. And after you connect, finally, guess what we have here? Update pressure thresholds. What I did is I set mine to 28 and 28, and what this will do is it will throw the low tire pressure code at 22 psi and under, or like 21 psi. And the reason for that is because the Tread Act that was set in 2001 had a law that says if your tire pressures drop either 25%, okay, if they drop by 25% or below 22 psi, you have to throw these codes. So what they did is they picked the lowest number to allow you to set this to where when it would drop 25%, it would be exactly 22 psi. Interestingly enough, only on the metric tire inflation tables, on some of them, not even on all of them, some will say 26, some will say 22. P metric, it's going to bottom out at 26. Some metric tables will say 22 is the lowest. And of course, on LT tires, usually the lowest that you can do is 35 PSI. And that's because you have to add about 10 pounds for LT tires, or sometimes more, even in the same tire size. And we'll have a whole nother discussion about that in another video. Anyway, if you set 28, you can pretty much set whatever you want. It's not going to throw the low tire warning until you hit 22 PSI, which is perfect. I don't plan on going lower than that. I'll probably run 23 on the trail. And the reason I like this, instead of just seeing the warning, I want to know when I have a flat tire. So if you run lower tire pressures and the code is always, and the thing's always showing, when you go lower than that, it's not going to ding or anything. It's not going to let you know if you have a flat tire. I want to know if I have a flat tire, but I don't want it to ding until I'm under 22 PSI. By the way, if you use this setting, you should absolutely pull over immediately if you're below 22 PSI, because all the documentation says that 22 is about the lowest, and for sure below 20, I don't care what tire you have, you pretty much have an officially flat tire. That low, unless you're off-road, probably with LT tires and bead locks and all that stuff. And even that is a little bit sketchy. Do it at your own risk. Only do it if you get stuck, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not giving you advice on what pressures to use. Anyway, after you set these values, you hit start, you'll be good to go. Feel free to pick whatever you want, you know, at your own risk. This was your original setting. If you want to set it back, I will say one thing. Although it's not throwing codes anymore, when I go below 22, it will still say inflate to 36. However, when I go above 22, the warning still goes away. So even though it will say tire pressure low, inflate to 36 PSI, you know, and I know, we did the math. You don't have to do that if you've got bigger tires. It will say that, but you don't have to do it. I don't know if I missed a step or if there's another setting in here for that, but what I can tell you is this does work. And that's it. So you'll change the setting, you'll hit start. I waited a few seconds to see if my code's cleared. I drove around a little bit. I let all the codes clear. I kind of let it get warmed up and all that stuff. I found a safe place to park. If you're messing with this stuff, because you could brick your Jeep and you could brick your computer and you might have to get it towed and reflashed, or worst case scenario, maybe even a new computer, please park somewhere where your vehicle is towable in case something happens, okay? This is fringe stuff that you're messing with, all right? Don't do this in your garage. It's really hard to get a tow truck in your garage to pull your car out and stuff, I would imagine. You know, pull out somewhere, side of the road or whatever, in front of your house or wherever you're at. Be in a towable position in case this goes south. You know, software has bugs. This Alpha OBD software could have a bug one day and do something really weird. Just be in a place where you can be towed, heaven forbid, because you don't know what's going to happen. And there's a setting in here, I think, where you can turn the logging on and off. I think it's on by default, where it tries to remember all the settings that you've changed. I don't know a whole lot about this software, but in theory, there's a way to see all the settings that you've changed and try to figure out how to roll it back if something goes bad. And I think that's this info log recording right here. So that was on by default. I didn't have to turn that on. That was already on in the software. So be sure that it saves somewhere, you know, do the needful and all these things. But other than that, I think you will be happy, like I was, to not see that warning anymore when I know better. I've done the math. I've done extensive research. I read the Tread Act. I read about the Ford Explorer problems that were had. I read why they lowered the pressure, why it rolled over. I did all that research because, and you should, because if you're wrong, you're dead wrong. Your life's at risk if you don't know what you're doing with tire pressure. So please do your research, be thorough, and be safe. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks, everyone.